Hi, I'm State Representative Carolyn Tomei, and you are watching Milwaukee Today. Only we're calling this series of shows Milwaukee Yesterday because we're looking at the history of Milwaukee and talking with people who've lived in Milwaukee a long time and have contributed to the history of Milwaukee. Today I have as my honored guest Bill Hupp, who was a former mayor of Milwaukee and also ran a newspaper in Milwaukee, and that was the Milwaukee Review. Is that right, Bill?
No, and people do get it confused with the community press, not the Review.
Okay, so what was it? It was the community press.
Community Press, the North Clackamas issue of the Community Press.
Ah, good.
And I wrote a weekly column in that for 17 years.
That's terrific.
I didn't own it at all. I just wrote a column for them.
Ah, okay. And you also had a business in downtown Milwaukee.
For 20 years, I had Hupp Studio and Camera Shop, an easy way to determine is right across the street from Bernard's Garage on Washington Street.
I remember that very well, yes.
Yeah, and when I landed it, before I ever came to Milwaukee, I fell in love with it. And Milwaukee has been my city ever since.
I know. You live on Washington Street a little bit.
Yes, I'm a block away from the studio. It's too far to walk, and I couldn't walk or ride it. I had to ride the car every day.
Oh dear.
I needed the car to use the camera during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when did you come to Milwaukee? When did your business come here?
1958.
1958, okay.
And bought our home there and established the business. We was in Oregon City for 10 years prior to that.
Right. And you and your lovely wife,
yes,
Ann, who has been your great partner for many years.
From day one. We were married, this year we were married 62 years.
That's great.
And she has been my right hand, clear up until I got off the council, and then she said, I've had enough. So she doesn't like politics anymore.
I can understand that. Now, Bill, how did you get involved in politics?
Well, would you believe I rode a motorcycle? And I was a charter member of the Portland Police Stunt and Drill Team.
Ah.
We were all commissioned police officers and traveled around with shows for the with the motorcycles all over.
And when did you start doing that? What year?
I wish you hadn't asked.
That's okay.
In the 30s.
In the 30s?
In the 30s, yes.
Wow.
In the 30s, I was just a kid.
All right.
But I was still an officer. I've been a commissioned officer ever since, by the way, even in the city of Milwaukee.
I didn't know that.
I carried a commission in Milwaukee's police department. And I was the official photographer for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office under 3 sheriffs, their official photographer, on call. They called me when they would have raids or if there was homicides or if there was fatal accidents. They'd call Bill Hupp to take the pictures.
Oh, my.
I set up the mug shot for the mug camera for the prisoners in the jail of the county.
Right.
They didn't have anything before. They farmed it out, and I didn't like it. I was the farmer. When I came, they sent it to me, and I finally got them to do it themselves. Anyway.
Good for you.
But
so that helped you get into politics.
In Oregon City, half of my customers were attorneys. I did an awful lot of legal work for them, to the point where whenever I was called upon as a witness in a court case, it soon became known that it doesn't do any good to challenge Bill Hupp and his pictures. So when I testified on the pictures, they said they were accepted. Because I was a photographer for many of the attorneys there.
I see.
And even for a long time after I came to Milwaukee.
So how did you get involved in Milwaukee politics?
Well, in Oregon City, I was naturally, I was in business. I became a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And that was partly politics. On the on KGON was the radio station in Oregon City, And Fred Rieksecker was the sheriff, and Joe Schob. They had public, let's see, what would it be? Traffic safety programs, and they'd have me on the program. So I got involved in the city's laws on safety and traffic safety. Came to Milwaukee and brought the traffic safety idea back here. And also, most of the politicians in the city of Milwaukee were my customers too, because at every election I took an awful lot of pictures.
I'll bet.
But I just got interested. The more I got into it, the more I felt that it needed somebody, so I offered my service.
Good.
And I was in for 10 years.
You were on council for 10 years?
Council, as mayor for 4. All of the time on the council was 10 years, but 4 of those were the mayor.
Right.
2 terms.
So what were some of the big issues that you worked on in the city council?
Well, the biggest one, I'm very proud to say, was the open meeting bill.
Tell us about that.
Well, that was sure a big hullabaloo in the city of Milwaukee, because the city manager at the time was Mr. Paul Helton, and he thought
And what year was this bill?
19... I think 76.
72, I think. Council loses pre-meeting dinners. Wasn't that part of it?
Yes, it was, but that was, well, okay. I'll go by the,
okay, go by that.
report, yeah.
Okay.
But he thought it was a good idea for the council to meet at the Chalet La Bay.
Which is up there on River Road and
now Fernwood or something.
Now it's the Fernwood Inn,
a lush place to
lovely.
eat.
Yes.
And a little teeny room on the top floor of that restaurant. We told them what we wanted to have for dinner, and we had dinner and discussed everything on the agenda of the coming meeting at 7 o'clock. And the waiters couldn't even get into service, let alone constituents or public. There was no way to...
so it was in essence a closed meeting.
It certainly wasn't an open one, Carolyn. It wasn't an open meeting, and that's when all of the fight was by the manager and the council at the time. They liked the idea of the meetings and the dinners, but they didn't like the idea of me calling them closed meetings.
So the council didn't like you, even though you were a member of the council. You claimed this was a closed meeting. It was closed to the public.
And I have reams of the fight at the council.
Right. So tell us about that.
Well, we...
Who was mayor at the time? Let's see if I can find
Don
it.
Graff was the mayor.
Okay.
Don Graff was mayor. And the theory was that if the council met in closed session, the time to take the public meetings would be reduced. There wouldn't be nearly enough time necessary for people at a meeting. So all the business was done up in the restaurant.
Behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors, practically.
Okay.
No, they didn't close the doors, actually, Carol, and they pulled that out. We didn't close the door, but they weren't advertised.
Okay.
Nobody knew about them except the council until I complained about them. In fact, Joy Burgess and I both were
and
against
Joy
it.
was on the council also?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and we refused to go, and I called the
was it ACLU? Is that who you called?
No, it was Common Cause.
Okay.
Common Cause.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had there was a press conference catty corner from City Hall at which it was publicized, and that's what. Then of course it came out in the paper, and it was a no-no. But the council didn't like any part of me bringing it out in open.
So the council was pretty satisfied with having these meetings where they discuss business.
Everyone on the council except Bill and Joy wanted those meetings.
Okay.
And as a result of it, and when the public furor became big and loud enough, the city manager, Paul Helton, said, okay, we'll have them in my office. And if you've ever seen the city manager's office in the city of Milwaukee, where's the public going to be if they have them there? So they had 2 meetings there, condemned it, but the legislature got a hold of it. I went down to the
Oregon
legislature.
State Legislature got a hold of
Oregon
it.
State Legislature.
Okay.
I went down and testified. I think Ripper was the committee chairman.
Okay.
The funny thing about it, Carolyn, that made me happy was because when the publicity was given to this the open and closed meeting situation, all across the whole state of Oregon, these little cities went to the legislature and wrote their newspapers, and they've been going. The politicians have been holding these closed meetings in our city. It was all over. It was endemic. Is that the right word? Anyway, so it wasn't just us. We just pulled the plug on it.
So it started in Milwaukee, this whole idea of open meetings.
Absolutely, right across the street from City Hall. You bet. You bet. And all of the publicity is the whole. By the way, it passed in the legislature overwhelmingly. By the way,
yes.
They didn't dare say, "Let's continue the closed meetings. Let's make it illegal," and it's been illegal ever since.
But you know what, Bill?
What?
It's not illegal in the legislature. If there is a travesty of justice, it is that the controlling party can meet behind closed doors and make their decisions that affect the whole state and not have anybody there present, including the press. Did you know that?
Carolyn, I don't like that.
I don't like it either, but that's the way it is.
Let's complain.
I have complained, but I need
for
somebody.
me.
Right, you did a good job. You
Yeah.
did great.
Anyway,
Good for you.
so you said the most important thing. The next most important thing, in my opinion, was to hire a good, efficient, qualified city manager. And we've had dozens of them, and we've only had about 3 or 4 at the very most that were worth what they got paid, and they get paid plenty.
It's a tough job. They do
It
get
is
paid
a
lot.
tough job,
Yes.
but it's no tougher for the man that can do it than it is for the man that can't.
That's
Really?
true. That's true. Good. So, so that was in 1973 that you got the open meeting law.
No,
Is that
dear.
right? That's
Well,
what.
oh, yeah, 73.
Yes, 73.
79, I believe, was when I stepped down as mayor. Didn't run again.
Okay.
Oh, there's...
Okay. Now, how about a feud over a park, North Clackamas Park? What was that about?
Well, if you recall, when Joe Bernard and I were on one of the meetings, one of the programs, we did discuss the North Clackamas Park.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was chairman of the park board that got the park. I was on it. I was the photographer and publicity on it, and McBroad and
Bill Broad and his mother, what was her name?
Waters, wasn't it?
Oh, I can't, no.
Anyway,
I can't think of it, yeah.
Anyway, the city finally got the park together through annexations and through donations and purchases. They finally got the park. And I believe it was only about 2 years after they had the park, the city manager, I don't remember who he was, but he said, sorry, people, but we can't support the park. Which meant that it wasn't going to be a budgetary item anymore, so we asked the county if they could take it over and add it to theirs,
Mm-hmm.
which they did. But in 3 more years, the city got wealthy enough to be able to take the park back. But if you think it was easy for me to go down to the county commission meeting after meeting, and Stan Skoko would not let the park go from the county to the city again, until finally I went.
And he was a county commissioner.
He was a
Stan
county
Skoko.
commissioner, and I finally he lived in Milwaukee, and I'm not going to say what I told him about, because don't forget I took all of his campaign pictures. He was at the studio just talking a lot of the time. I won't tell you what I told Stan I would do if he didn't let go of the park.
Yes,
let
this
me
is
have
a family program. We don't want that on
Yes,
here.
and I'm glad that you reminded me. But anyway, Stan did. he did break down and decide that it is their park, and I'm not going to...
It's Milwaukee's park.
It's Milwaukee's park.
Right.
You bet it is. And
Yes.
I hope... Well, Carolyn, I don't like what Milwaukie is losing. It's losing its fire service. It's losing its parks to a degree, and I know why. I was the one that started the ball rolling to obtain the Milwaukie Senior Center. We got the council to hire Paul Richards to write the grant.
Grant, right.
That gave us the
federal money to help build that,
Yeah.
right?
But now it's not really. It was budgeted by the city on the city budget. Now it isn't, as you know.
Right.
The parks aren't. The fire department isn't.
Right.
And
that senior center covers a lot of people throughout the county, not just in Milwaukie.
it's a jewel.
Right,
It's a jewel.
It is.
Whether it belongs to Milwaukie or not, it's ours, and it's a jewel.
It is.
And it's the same as our museum is a jewel and not funded. I wish more people would join it and take advantage of it. And the other jewel in our city is the library, which is,
yes,
believe
the
me,
Ludding Library.
there's none any better.
That's right.
But like Topsy, it keeps growing. And
Right, and we serve a lot of people in that library. We serve a lot of people throughout the
Oh,
county.
I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Right.
And that's good. I don't
Yes,
object to
absolutely.
that. Isn't there a difference in the fee for out of
There's no
city?
fee. There's
Out
no
of-
fee. No.
Not even
No, but
cards?
the county, no, not even for cards, but
Oh.
the county helps fund the library.
Oh.
We get a certain amount of money from the county.
But well, the Selwood Library is no longer in existence, so the people
Oh,
come
yes,
to Milwaukie.
there is.
That's-
There's a wonderful library on 13th. Oh, yes, it's a lovely new library on 13th.
Well, there was
Southeast
one on
13th.
Nehalem, too. But
There was one on 17th, and they just closed that
Oh.
early 2002. And now there's one on 13th, just south of Tacoma.
well, now
which is
you
lovely.
see, we're never too old to learn.
That's right. Me too.
My
Bill.
golly.
I want to remind Richard, who is televising this, folks, that I did not look at the time before. So Richard's going to have to come out and let me know when I've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. Bill, something else that you brought a lot of notes here. An ordinance regulating the use of compression brakes causing unnecessary noise in the city of Milwaukie and setting penalties. So tell me about that.
Well, it's called, they are compression brakes, and they're on almost all of the big trucks.
Uh-huh.
And I think the manufacturer is Jake, so they call them Jake brakes.
Jake brakes,
The point
right.
is that when a truck, instead of using its foot brakes or its regular brakes, it puts the motor into compression. And then goes
Good sound, yes.
as it approaches the any
gonna
intersection,
stop, right.
any intersection, whenever they want to slow down,
Right.
and especially when they want to go to McDonald's, there's Jake brakes all up and down the highway. But down in town, it was really just was not good to have those brakes come down and make all that noise. And it was very easy. I'm glad I did it. Somebody should. I'm glad I got the council to pass the ordinance that would prohibit them from inside the city limits. And it's been that way ever since, and that was years ago.
That was, let's see if I can look on the date on
Our
this,
city of Milwaukie-
1978.
Our
Good for
city
you,
of
Bill.
Milwaukie is quieter and more livable without the Jake brakes, I can assure you.
Now, you retired from council in 78, so you did that right before you retired.
Well, I did a lot of things before I retired, a lot of things after too, Carolyn.
Anything more while you were on council that you want us to know about?
Well, yes, there was a situation where, well, I don't know. Yeah, I'll say it because it's a matter of record now, and I won't mention any names. But the police department it was found out that the police department was tapping the phones and recording all of the conversations between the suspects and their attorney. And that
People that were in the Milwaukee Police Department?
the police would bring in
The suspect.
and arrest somebody
Right.
or whatever, and they would get an attorney, and the police would listen in all of their conversation.
Oh my!
That isn't legal,
gosh.
dear. That isn't legal. Well, as soon as I found it out, and it was the policemen themselves that didn't like it, and called me and said, "You know that's happening?" "No, I didn't." "Well, it is, Buster." I called ACLU and I told them about it, and we've got they came down on the city in a hurry, and the city admitted it and agreed not to do it anymore.
Oh my gosh, that was a good piece of housekeeping. So you have lots of things here.
Oh, when we first came to Milwaukee, we can go back to then when this little town, one of the things that I loved about it, it had a police chief and a captain and his wife, a parking control officer.
I remember him.
You remember him?
Right.
I had fun with him. And one patrol car. The chief of police wore a plaid shirt and house slippers downtown. The
patrol.
patrol,
captain?
yeah, no, not the
patrol?
captain. Captain, I don't know what the captain did. I liked him, and I liked his wife, but there was finally, anyway, the patrol car every night would go up and down Main Street and shake every doorknob to make sure that it was locked. Can you beat that?
No.
He patrolled the city, and he shook every business doorknob to make sure that it was closed. And then you know what he did? Went down to the many nights. He went down to the ortho facility in the industrial park and went to sleep.
Took a nap after all that hard
We went
work.
to sleep because Charlie Renard and I were both on the council, and he said, "This is going to have to make this guy, for what he gets paid, he's going to have to stay awake." So twice we went down there and woke him up, and pretty soon he didn't sleep anymore.
Now, Bill, you had a TV show that went on for a while on Jones Intercable in those days, with at least in '87, with Ron Kinsella and Joe Bernard, who were
Yes.
also former mayors. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that.
Well, Carolyn, I really believe the thing that we decided amongst ourselves, the three of us met, what can we do about the situation in City Hall? Now, I'm not going to mention names, but the city manager was not the best in the world. In fact, he wasn't good at all. We didn't think. And all he could do was think of how to put up and for how much taxes, how to increase taxes, how to get more money to do. We didn't think should be done. To make a long story short, we decided that we were going to go on. Milwaukee had its cable system, and we would go, our program was former mayors speak out. And it was Kinsella and Bernard and Bill, and we stood up at a counter and razzed the city. we really told the city why they shouldn't do this, why they shouldn't do that, and it was fun.
How long did you do that, Bill?
We had 11 meetings, I think, and Richard
Beck here.
Yeah, he has the tapes. I got the tapes when we were through, and
Now you
I gave them to him. He wanted
Good.
them in the
archives.
archives, yeah.
Great, good. Now, Bill, we've only got about 2 minutes, so I'm going to have you come back again. But you also deliver goods for the needy. I've seen you at Albertsons and different stores, and you pick up bread. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know whether I was born on a farm or why, but I hated to see things thrown away that could be used and eaten. I made a deal with for 11 years with the Safeway manager. You let me have your day old, and I'll see that it goes to the needy. Yeah, well, the pastry and milk and eggs and if they'd pull them, because at pull date,
right,
they were still good, but
They
throw them
couldn't
away.
sell them.
They throw them
Sure,
away.
right.
And anyway, I had a route. I took a load. I did it, I think, 3 or 4 days a week in my little Pinto, and I'd fill it up. I'd take a load to the Catholic Church cafeteria, the Annie Ross house, and the senior center would get a load. Let's see. Well, those were the
three.
regular routes. Oh, yes, the Episcopal Church.
Episcopal Church, which
Yeah.
still serves meals on Sunday afternoons.
Yes, and Father Toll wrote me a very, very nice letter for the hundreds of pounds of food that I had
Right,
donated to their
right.
dinners. But that's oh, and then when Safeway went out, I finally prevailed upon. It never wouldn't Albertson wouldn't have anything to do with it.
But now they do. I've seen you at Albertsons picking up
And
food.
I do, yeah. But
I'm going to stop that because that's going to make noise on your
oh, okay.
speaker.
I convinced them that if Safeway could do it, they could do it.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
And I even sent letters of appreciation to Safeway, to the head office. I don't remember where it was. And they came back, their manager called me up and said, well, you made your point.
Great.
So now it all goes, every day somebody gets it. I get
Great.
it on Sunday.
Bill, our time is up. I can't believe it, but I'm going to ask you to stay, and we're going to do another program, and we can show it again next week.
I'm sure we could.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have as my guest today former Mayor Bill Hupp and also businessman in Milwaukee. I'm State Representative Carolyn Tomei, and you've been watching Milwaukee Today, which is really Milwaukee Yesterday, looking at the history of Milwaukee. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.